Welcome back, everyone. Oz here, and today I've got some r/AmIOverReacting for you all. As per usual, I'll be going through the post, giving you my opinion at the end, and I hope you do the same down in the comments below. And without further ado, let's jump right into it. Minimum Elk 5790. Am I overreacting for putting a lock on my bedroom door after my mom stole my underwear in cash for my own good? Throw away because I know my brother is using Reddit too. So I, 22 female, moved back in with my parents after college to save up before moving out. And it was supposed to be temporary and chill. But instead, it's turned into a nightmare. My mom has always been controlling, but it's gotten insane. She cleans my room every day, even though I've told her a million times not to. She moves my stuff, throws things out, rearranges everything. And last month, I found out she literally took my journal and read it because she was worried what I was writing about. Then it got worse. I had about $400 of cash in an envelope from tips at work, and when I went to grab it, it was gone. I thought I lost it until she told me she confiscated it because I was too careless leaving it out, and she said she'd give it back when I really needed it. I freaked out, but she acted like I was the crazy one. But here's the insane part. I also noticed some of my underwear was missing from my laundry basket. At first, I thought maybe it got lost in the wash. But then I found it neatly folded in her dresser drawer, and when I confronted her, she said she took it because my styles were too inappropriate for a young woman living at home, and that she didn't want me tempting men when she did the laundry. I felt sick to my stomach, so yeah, I went out and bought a lock for my door. Cheap, but nothing fancy. Just enough so she can't come in while I'm not home. And both of my parents lost it. My dad said I was treating them like criminals in their own house. My mom cried and said I was shutting her out and accused me of hiding immoral things. Now they're threatening to kick me out if I don't remove the lock, but I honestly don't feel safe without it at this point. So, Reddit. Am I overreacting for locking my bedroom door in my parents' house after my mom stole my cash and literally took my underwear? Comment from user PoppyPie77. I'd move out if possible, even if you have to share a place with roommates for a while. I'd also text her and tell her she needs to return the $400 she stole from your bedroom and return your underwear. Otherwise, you'll report her to the police for theft. Especially for the money, because if she refuses to give it back to you, she has stolen it. Send it via text so you have proof when she replies. She'll likely reply with something that inadvertently admits to her taking it, such as, "I haven't stole it, I'm keeping it safe for when you really need it." Something like that proves she took it without permission and is withholding it. If she doesn't return it that evening immediately, report it to the police. And then, I'd find somewhere else to stay immediately, as your mom is insane and seriously disrespectful and out of line. Like, the thing is, OP's an adult. They're allowed to live their life how they see fit, and they should be entitled to their privacy. Like, does your dad know that she stole $400 from you and that's why you put the lock on your door? Because probably, yeah. He probably is aware that she took the $400 because of the comment that he made about you treating them like criminals in their own house. They stole $400 from you. Not overreacting, file a police report, and also, just because I wouldn't be surprised, check your credit history and maybe file a freeze, just in case, because, something tells me that your parents wouldn't be above doing that. Also, real quick, I know there's the joke of where someone will post, "Hey, am I overreacting?" and proceeds to state some of the most batshit stuff happening to them right now, where they are most certainly underreacting. What you gotta keep in mind is that in the environment they're in, they're actively being gaslit and manipulated to believe that they are overreacting. So they are coming here for outside opinions and support because they need it. They need that lifeline because their reality around them is being controlled by a third party, and they need that additional set of eyes to help kind of get a sanity check here. So I know sometimes it's obvious that someone is definitely not overreacting, but some people do need that extra set of eyes. Landlord Mess. Am I overreacting for getting mad at my boyfriend calling his best friend's wife beautiful? My, 32 female, boyfriend's, 32 male, best friend, 32 male, is diabetic and has been diagnosed since my boyfriend knew him in high school. Last night, boyfriend's friend's wife, 32 female, called him in hysterics because her husband was pale and fainted. I wonder what could have caused that. She brought him to the hospital that is 40 seconds from their house, and she was crying because she didn't know what's wrong with him. My boyfriend was acting like she performed open-heart surgery by bringing her to the hospital and telling her she was so smart, amazing, and beautiful. I asked him why he felt the need to say that, and he screamed at me saying his best friend is in the hospital and no one knows what's wrong with him and he passed out. I reminded my boyfriend he's diabetic and that's most likely the cause, and since we live in a first world country, he's gonna be okay. He continued yelling at me about his friend and didn't talk to me for the rest of the night. Am I overreacting? Was him calling his friend's wife beautiful in this situation uncalled for? I actually think this might be an overreacting post. If I were to just kind of hazard a guess here, my guess would be is in a moment of hysterics while her husband was literally passed out and had to be rushed to the hospital, your husband was just trying to be nice and supportive and calm her down and just rolling off the tongue of the quickest thing he could think of, just to help pretty much get the situation under control and help calm her down a little bit. That's just my reasoning and my guess as to why he did that, but the whole commentary about, well, we're in a first world country, so honestly, you shouldn't be so concerned. That's really callous and just gross. So I wanted to go and check the comments just to make sure that I wasn't out of line here or something along those lines, because this was just my initial reaction. And here's some just general comments. Double Doofa comments. To think that his boyfriend couldn't die because we live in a first world country is callous. That's what I said. People with diabetes, especially type 1, die every day. It can be a very difficult disease to manage, especially depending on the status of the person's pancreas. Also, not everyone has access to the best equipment to manage it. And even if they do, those things have problems too. I have 2 type 1 diabetics in my office and have learned so much about the disease. Be curious, not judgmental. That said, I'm not sure why you had to say she was beautiful, but if you've ever been concerned about their relationship before, I don't think that it's an issue. I think it can be said as you're a beautiful person, not necessarily meaning looks. A deleted user comments, yeah, I agree. That whole section about it being diabetes, so it's no biggie, makes OP sound incredibly ignorant and self-absorbed. 1, we have no idea if it was caused by diabetes, actually, and 2, diabetes causes blindness, limb loss, and other super fun things aside from deaths that occur yearly in the first world countries. Comment from Illustrious Desk 465. You're overreacting. As a parent to a type 1 diabetic, you have no idea how scary a low blood sugar is. If he got to the point of passing out, a seizure was coming next if he didn't get sugar ASAP, which is very difficult while unconscious, requires a glycogen injection. If not, the seizures can lead to a coma and he could die. Are you that insecure that you're upset your husband was being encouraging and supportive in a potentially life-threatening scenario? That makes me livid. So incredibly selfish of you. Naja19 responds to that comment. This hypoglycemia can be life-threatening, and so can hyperglycemia. Diabetes is a very serious condition that has to be very closely monitored. All that happened, all OP got out of it was that her boyfriend called his best friend's wife beautiful. It sounds like he was just trying to be reassuring because she was obviously scared and upset. User Disney Buckeye comments, you're overreacting, and while it's not the right sub for this, you're the asshole. Also, as I was reading, I kept thinking to myself, she's snarky. And when I finished reading, I actually said bitchy out loud. I'm assuming you've never been part of a medical emergency because you'd know that they're terrifying. Even if you think you know what it is, it's scary. Because people die or become permanently incapacitated during the most routine of things, even in first world countries. And you are incredibly arrogant in your attitude. You have no idea whether or not he'll be okay. You're completely dismissive of things that are happening to everyone else in this story and seem put out that it happened. When someone is falling apart emotionally, decent people try to comfort them and build them up. Was your boyfriend's choice of words in this case strange? Maybe. Was your timing terrible and your complete lack of situation awareness amazing? Yes. User Humbug comments. Yeah, you're overreacting and you're being callous. Plenty of people in first world do in fact die from diabetes. It's a serious condition and fainting for an extended period is very serious. Beautiful might be a weird word in the moment, but are you seriously nitpicking his words when he just found out his best friend is in the hospital? Sounds like still unconscious, and his wife found him and may have saved him? Your description of the wife didn't do open heart surgery makes you sound extremely insecure. She did a good thing in a panic state. My God. And this is just a few of the comments that I could find. It just keeps, there's 199 of comments that are just echo this exact same opinion. I wanted to double check that I wasn't just somehow missing something incredibly obvious here, but seeing that both male and female users have pretty much come to the same consensus tells me exactly what I need to know here. Expensive Parfait 981. Am I overreacting about the receptionist yelling my personal info out? So, I went to my doctor's office today. I've been there before. They already have my insurance and all my info on file. At check-in, the receptionist asks for my ID. I hand it to her. And instead of just checking it, she starts reading everything out loud. My name, birthday, address, basically yelling it across the waiting room for everyone to hear. I stopped her and said, "Why are you saying all my info out loud?" She immediately got loud and defensive like, "Well, what do you want me to do? I'm just doing my job." I told her, "You can just look at my ID or print it out and have me confirm it silently." She refused and said, "That's not how it works." Then she kept insisting it wasn't weird at all. I felt super uncomfortable because isn't that private info? Like, I don't want my address and birthday announced to a room full of strangers. Am I overreacting or am I out of my mind? I'd feel really uncomfortable if I found out, like, my partner was going to, like, the doctor's office and, like, while they were there, to a room full of strangers, had her full name and address just loudly proclaimed. I'd be a bit paranoid and a bit worried. In all my life of just going to doctor's offices, dentist office, just everything, I've never had this happen to me. I've never been in a position where the receptionist yells my info out. They always hand me a paper and have me sign and confirm, or they check my ID. Or, worst case scenario, they whisper or speak as softly as possible to get a quick confirmation on something. And even with that, usually it's something like, "Oh, number ending in XXXX," or, "Huh, are you still on First Street?" Just stuff like that. Like, I know that I spoke on my partner earlier, but I'd be pissed if this happened to me as well. This sounds like a potential HIPAA violation. I honestly am not 100% sure because HIPAA seems so back and forth on what can and cannot be enforced, and even if something like this happens, usually it's just, the office will simply retrain them on proper procedures. I think it really just depends if the office actually cares or not. But, not overreacting. Deleted user. Am I overreacting for leaving my girlfriend's family dinner after what her dad said? My girlfriend, 27 female, invited me, 28 male, to a family dinner to finally meet her parents. We've been together for almost a year, so I wanted to make a good impression. Dinner started out fine, until her dad started asking about my job. I work in IT, and while it pays well, it's not some high-status career. After a few questions, he smirked and said, "So, basically, you just sit behind a computer all day. Not exactly the kind of guy I imagined for my daughter." Everyone kind of laughed awkwardly. I tried to brush it off with a joke, but then he said, "Maybe someday you'll get a real job so you can actually support a family." I felt my stomach drop. My girlfriend just said, "Dad," but didn't defend me beyond that. I quietly excused myself, said I wasn't feeling well, and left. Later that night, my girlfriend texted me saying I embarrassed her by walking out and that I should just let it go because her dad was only teasing. I honestly feel disrespected and don't think I overreacted, but now she's acting cold and saying I owe her family an apology. Reddit, am I overreacting for leaving? Maricat comments, not overreacting. She just proved that her family is toxic and she's too cowardly to do anything about it. I'd bail on this relationship. The fact that she scolded you for leaving due to this horrible behavior is something else. Baran Garuda responds to this comment. You don't understand though, he was joking. No, her father was being a waffle. Her dad put him in a box with no exits. 1, if he stayed at the restaurant and just let him talk shit about you, you'd be looked at as cowardly. 2, if he stayed at the table and gave the same condescending attitude back to the father, his girlfriend would have said OP is the issue. 3, if he leaves the dinner, then he's a snowflake who can't take a joke. 4, extreme, but since it's an option, challenge her father to a duel at high noon. Bonus points if y'all just clear a spot in the living room for that night. When OP lays him out, take his dentures as a trophy. 5, this is the one I went with. First time I met the woman's parents, I was getting raked over the coals like I was some sort of vagabond that offends them just to be breathing the same air. I looked at my girlfriend and asked, "Hey, you gonna run interference here?" We talked about it the prior day and said that we would have each other's back when it comes to our own family. You deal with your family, I'll get mine. But yeah, OP should be more pissed right off, definitely not overreacting. There is actually a sixth option that I found, but it's kind of unhinged, but it usually works at shutting down this kind of mentality. While this was not my partner's parents, this was my best friend's future fiance's parents. And as we were talking, they were like, "Oh, so Oz, what do you do for a living?" He worked in construction. I had been doing YouTube for about a year at that point. And I kind of at this point was at a point where I just flat out told him, "Yeah, I'm doing YouTube right now." Didn't tell him my channel was because I wanted to remain a private person and keep those sides of my life separate. And, he scoffed at it, laughed at it, told me like, "Oh, well, I'm sure once you get a real job, you'll be happier." And did this kind of really just sarcastic laugh looking around to see if anyone would laugh alongside him. And I just responded, "Yeah, but paying $50,000 in taxes isn't exactly fun." This was before I had actually paid taxes, so I didn't know what the taxes would be, so I just threw out a big number. It was not an accurate number, by the way, knowing that it would make him shut up. And it did. And for the rest of the trip, I had his full respect. He did not make a single snarky comment after that and actually just looked at me and conversed with me entirely differently after that comment. So if you're dealing with someone who says you need to get a real job, complain about the taxes you pay. It entirely derails the conversation into something that they will agree with and gain a mutual form of respect of, "Oh, you might sit behind a computer, but we can both agree that taxes suck." And boom. And as for the story, not overreacting, and honestly, you should probably tell your girlfriend that the father owes you an apology and you just removed yourself from the situation because his behavior was childish. You're in the clear here, and your girlfriend should definitely be standing up to her family for you because this is just goofy behavior. I actually really like the idea of pretty much, I'll deal with my family, you deal with your family, and running interference for each other. I think that's actually a really incredibly productive and healthy way of handling that. I mean, it's so goddamn obvious, but having it in words, it just makes complete sense. Rando Banders. Am I overreacting? Ex dropped my girlfriend home after her night out with her friend. My girlfriend went out last night downtown drinking with her friend. I thought nothing over it. I was happy they were going out. I even dropped them off down there. I made it very, very clear that if anything happened, anything at all, call me. I had work early the next morning, but I made it clear it didn't bother me because God forbid something happened to them. I was only 10 minutes away, and the lack of sleep doesn't faze me. After dropping them off, I went home, texted her, "Be safe, I love you." She never responded. I shrugged it off and went to bed. Figured they were partying. I woke up to use the bathroom at 3 a.m. and she still wasn't home. That was strange because even when we go out, we're yawning at 12 and home by 1 at the latest. I didn't think too hard on it, but out of curiosity, I checked Life 360 and she was just up our street, parked somewhere for 30 plus minutes. My heart started spinning with a million different questions, wondering why the hell she's up there. I threw clothes on, ran out the door, and drove up. I pulled up next to a car with her and him. This was her ex she was with on and off for just over a year. I went from 0 to 100 instantly, jumped out of my car and yelled at them to get out. I was furious. He insisted. Nothing happened and he was just bringing her home. She stood there crying, saying her friend was roofied, and luckily, he was there to bring her home. However, her friend's roommate picked her up and offered my girlfriend a ride home, to which she refused. I drove her home, and she insisted she saw a familiar face and he was just getting off work at a bar downtown, but she didn't call me or text me. Not once. Am I overreacting? Am I looking too deep into this? Is there something else going on? We're talking about this tonight since she was still tipsy last night. I have faith nothing really happened, but my trust is damaged. I'm the one she should go to for help. Definitely not overreacting in the slightest. She went to a bar with her friend. You went to sleep. You woke up. She was parked up the road for 30 plus minutes. And she was in the car with her on again, off again ex for 30 plus minutes. When you caught them, Suddenly a story came out that her friend was roofied, despite the fact that, I presume, because this was added in here, you had confirmation that her friend had her roommate pick her up and took her home safely, and was even offered a ride. So why was the ex put into the picture here? Because if they were just, let's say, catching up and talking, and they parked and they were just, having a conversation as friends, why would they need to lie about that? Why would they need to start, trying to do damage control and covering for that? And if her friend was roofied, then yeah. Why wasn't he called? Why wasn't he informed? Why wasn't he the go-to for an emergency? Why wasn't he informed of, hey, something bad happened, can you come here? And if your friend was drugged, why are you with your ex alone in a car at 3 a.m. parked on the street for 30 plus minutes while she is being handled by the roommate? How come you're not with her during an actual medical emergency that she should be going to the hospital for? Why was there no communication with your boyfriend? She didn't text her boyfriend once, but was just sitting in the car up the road for 30 plus minutes. Like, I understand that guys and girls can be friend Oz. Trust me, I have more girls who are friends to me than I do guys. I get that. But like, you gotta admit, the circumstances surrounding this are fucked. Like, this is sus as hell. Honestly, if I was OP, trust your gut. Ask the friend questions. See what actually happened that night. See if you can get answers, or maybe potentially you'll have all the answers you need if suddenly her friend is running interference and making up excuses as to what happened that night. Just ask questions, keep an open mind, trust your gut. Definitely not overreacting. Unusual roll 7839. Am I overreacting? Boyfriend told me not to post my graduation pics or don't come home tonight. I, 24 female, graduated last week and wore a fitted midi dress. Not short, no cleavage. Hey, so real quick, is a midi dress pronounced midi? Because in my line of work, midi means something entirely different. So just kind of curious on that one. It was a big deal for me. First in my family to graduate, lots of photos with my parents and friends. My boyfriend, 27 male, was there and super sweet all day. On the way home, he asked to see the photos I was going to post, and then said he doesn't want me posting them because it looks thirsty and invites attention. I laughed, thinking he was joking, but he doubled down and said if I post those, I shouldn't come back to our place that night. Literally an ultimatum over my graduation pics. He framed it as respect, and that his coworkers' family follow me, and it reflects on him. I ended up not posting and stayed at my mom's because I was upset and honestly embarrassed. He texted later like, glad you respected our relationship. Then the next day, asked me to delete some old vacation photos. For context, he's made little comments before, like my makeup being a lot, and not loving certain tops, but never an explicit do this or else. He's not a monster, he's been really good to me in other ways, but I can't shake this. It feels controlling and I'm worried it's a preview of what's next. Am I overreacting for considering breaking up over this one incident? Is this the kind of boundary you compromise on or a line in the sand? How do you all handle social media boundaries in relationships without it turning into control? I'd really appreciate honest takes and what you'd say/do in my shoes. I'm definitely open to hearing if I'm blowing it out of proportion too. OP, you are right on the money that this is just a preview of what's to come. Like, this is a boundary in the sand that's been crossed that should not have to be crossed. Comment from user Witty asks 9731. As a guy, I don't think you're overreacting. It sounds controlling and very much a picture of your future and an increasing shrinking of what you're allowed to do under the guise of respect for the relationship. I have an ex who is similarly fixated on image, and despite attempts to meet her ever-changing definition of respect, she ultimately cheated on me, and said it was to give me a taste of my own medicine, and stood by the decision after she surprised me on a work trip, believing I was actually dating someone in another city, only to find out I was not lying about being in my hotel, applying to jobs in order to travel less. I very much hated being away from her, had no interest in other women, and was working to find a job which would allow me to spend more time with her. Her reasoning was that she saw I followed a girl on Instagram who was probably a whore. I had followed said person years before a relationship, had deleted my Instagram early in the relationship when she first made comments about it, and only activated it after she said I was hiding something by deleting it. I spent time actively unfollowing people and missed someone. Too long didn't read. I know your situation is different, but thought I'd share as I also ignored the smaller red flags at the beginning. This sounds like a nightmare building, and I wish I'd listened to the people who warned me before investing years of my life and changing my career to be close to her. User Zoe Dave Chappelle comments below this previous comment, hijacking top comment. OP and anyone else who's interested in learning about the early signs of abusive people, read, why does he do that? OP, your boyfriend is exhibiting textbook signs of an abuser. They often are extremely charming and act perfect in the beginning stages of a relationship to confuse you and prevent you from leaving when they start escalating mistreatment. This is his mask starting to come off, and your gut instinct is correct. It's there to protect you, and you should never ignore it. Abusive men of all types were studied for this, as it is more prevalent in men due to patriarchal power dynamics, but it can also apply to women as well. It gives you an insight into the patterns that abusers follow and how to spot it early before they ramp up escalation so you can leave before they destroy your life and self-esteem. You cannot change or fix them by showing them how much you love them. Their behavior has nothing to do with you, as it started forming in childhood, often molded by a parent and is practically hardwired in by adulthood. They shouldn't be in relationships or having children, as they only pass on this generational trauma to their children, creating new abusers or victims highly vulnerable to a lifetime of abuse that was normalized. You don't create families with abusers, you create a string of tragedy and heartbreak. They often hide their true nature until they have you hooked with something permanent, like a big move, marriage, or children. They rush these steps in a relationship to gain control. Being single and in control of your own life is far better and more peaceful than getting trapped with a parasite like this. And heading back to OP here from me and my perspective, I would bring this up with your parents and your family, your friends, anyone. Show them the photos he doesn't want you to post and the photos he wants you to delete, and ask them, do these photos existing change or ruin your view of my relationship with my boyfriend? And when they inevitably tell you, no, what are you talking about? Explain to them the scenario that you're in, that he threatened to kick you out of the house if you decided to post these images. In a moment that he should be proud of you being his partner and being able to show people, yeah, that girl right there that just graduated, that's my girlfriend. Look at this photo of her graduating. Look how great she looks. Instead, it's, I can't have anyone else see you. I'm going to put you in a bird cage and you're going to like it. That's the situation you're in right now. Vivian MiniB94. Am I overreacting for leaving my friend's wedding reception early because they forgot my dietary restriction? I, 30 female, am vegetarian, and my friend, 29 female, getting married, knows this. When I RSVP'd, I checked the vegetarian option box. At the reception, when dinner was served, my plate came out with chicken. I flagged it, and the server said they didn't have any vegetarian meals prepared. I ended up eating bread and salad while everyone else had a full dinner. I stayed for the speeches, but when the dancing started, I quickly slipped out and went home to actually eat. The next day, the bride texted me saying she noticed I left early and that it was hurtful. I told her honestly that I felt excluded and hungry all night. She got defensive and said I was overreacting over food and should have just enjoyed the moment. Now I feel guilty, but also upset. Am I overreacting for leaving? Why have the box then? Like if it's not going to do anything. Like if you're going to have the option for people to check for vegetarian meals, then why have it if there's not going to be vegetarian meals prepared? I almost wonder if, judging by the bride's reaction, if they looked at their budget, saw that only a few people checked vegetarian meals, and just decided, you know what, we can save a couple $100 by not having vegetarian meals prepared, and chose to go for that. So when it turned out to actually be a problem, rather than, apologizing, she became defensive over her decision to not have any vegetarian meals prepared. That just kind of makes sense for me because of the idea that there was initially a box for vegetarians and no vegetarian meals were prepared. But OP handled the situation just fine. Like, what were they supposed to do? They didn't have a meal. They were probably really hungry after sitting around for the entire reception. They still sat around for the reception, the speeches, everything. they only left when the dancing started. Which, honestly, the last wedding I went to, a lot of people left when the dancing started because, like, some people just don't have the time or have the energy to be around for all of that. So they'll stick around for the main reception, the speeches, the important parts, but then leave when the dancing begins because, hey, who knows? Maybe they have to be up early for the traveling tomorrow. A lot of options for that. So for me, OP left at probably a pretty reasonable point in the wedding. Like, even without the dietary kerfuffle going on, I honestly wouldn't blame OP for heading out afterwards in any situation like that, honestly. But then adding on the fact that they pretty much weren't served an actual full complete meal and probably were really goddamn hungry, 100% justified. Which really makes me wonder if, like, my theory on the fact that they decided to cut the vegetarian options because of price restrictions rings true. Like, if it was a situation where the catering company ran out of food and couldn't accommodate additional vegetarian options, or hell, even if the catering company didn't prepare vegetarian options when they said they would, then I feel like the friend would have been upset and ready to swing on her friend's behalf and not getting defensive and dismissive over the fact that they didn't have proper meal accommodations. That's just my thought on this, though. Hey, welcome to the outro. Don't forget this whole thing is basically brought to you by GamerSupps. If you like caffeine, then I can't recommend GamerSupps enough. Use code Oz at checkout to support the channel. And I do actually use this product. It's replaced all other sources of caffeine for me because I feel good. It doesn't have any of that extra stuff that a pre-workout blend might have. It's with a couple of the extra things to make it so you don't crash as hard. It's good. I like it. Personally, if you really want a good flavor, try the Soda Pressing Pear or even the Dragon Fruit Punch. Those two are my personal favorites right now.